before we get started on tonight's topics, I just want to give you a bit of a grounding to move on from, okay? So social media management, just to cut this down fine, is the monitoring, contributing to filtering, measuring, and otherwise guiding the presence of a brand, product, individual, or corporation on social media platforms, okay? So it's guiding, it's filtering, it's monitoring, it's measuring, okay? It's all of that good stuff. Alrighty, so now that we've got that bit down, let's take a look at content strategy. Is that clear for everybody? Everybody with awesome. Okay, awesome. Excellent. Okay, everybody with me? Wonderful. Awesome. So let's have a look at what content strategy is, right? So here's another one. It is the planning, development, and management of content, written or in other media. So can you see directly from that, from giving you those two definitions, what the parallels are between social management or even, social media management and content strategy? You can see that it's similar. Okay, excellent. So I want to ask you, as we move on, when we're talking about social media, what is the point, in your perception, what is the point of a social media content strategy? What's the point of having a strategy, guys? What do you think it is? I think there is a little bit of a delay on the webinar, but that's okay. All good. Just be some very uncomfortable silences. What do you think it is? Wonderful. Martin says to use social media effectively. Monique says to get the most out of your marketing. Byron says so that you don't run out of content to post and end up regurgitating old content. That is a brilliant point, but we'll get to it in a bit. Planning is the keyword, Marcus says. Plan of action, conversion. Exactly, guys. Okay, so we're going to break it down into the two different elements. Okay, we're going to talk about content, and then we're going to talk about the strategy part, because your social media content strategy, it all kind of fits into that. Okay, wonderful. Andrea says to increase turnover in customers to my clients. Nice one, keeping the eye on the prize there. Okay, so guys, if you've taken our on-demand viral marketing course, I don't know if anyone has, or if you've done the content marketing element or semester of this course, you're going to understand the importance of content online. And if not, it'll be broken down when you get to that semester, okay? So don't worry too much about it. But all you need to know for now, and a little recap for those of you who have done that semester or that course, we talk about content as anything that's shared by anyone, anywhere. That's pretty much it. So it's nice and narrow, hey? Okay, guys, so today, it's important to know as well that content is what drives the majority of sales, okay? It's important to know that, because if you think about it, what is content? It's everything. Everything we do in marketing, okay? So your customer is not just going to buy your product because you ask them to. They need incentive, okay? They need something in return for the information that they give you, or, never mind the purchase or the loyalty, right? Free stuff is a very, very good persuader, okay? So with that, I'm talking about your webinars, your ebooks, your free downloads, interesting articles. All of that falls under content, okay? Mike, you're very welcome. No worries. Hi, Otman, as well. Okay, guys, so today's customer, as I explained to you in lesson 1, okay, they're pretty highly discerning, okay, and because of the nature of our marketplace, when we're talking about social media as a marketplace, where whatever a customer wants, or even online as a marketplace, whatever your customer wants is available at a literal click of a button, okay, When we provide them with content, we're giving our customers something in return for their loyalty. We're kind of buying them off a little bit. And for what it's worth, you do not have to be a good writer to write good content. You do have to be a good writer to write exceptional content, but that's a different story altogether. The same way you'd have to be a really, really good photographer to make exceptional or take exceptional photos, right? Which is debatable. It's a whole nother discussion. But so anyone can make content, okay? But for it to be used effectively and for it to be created well, it needs to do the following things, okay? In order to use it for greater business goals, you need to align it with your business goals, okay? As I mentioned in lesson 1. So your social strategy, it needs to make sense in the grand scheme of things, okay? It needs to fit or plug into the rest of your digital strategy. And alongside that, so does the content that you intend to populate that strategy with, right? So next, it needs to be a point of contact with your consumers. It needs to relate to them, and you need to determine where your customers are online and then hone in on providing the very best experience to them through content on those platforms. You've got to find them, okay? And what's ideal is if you direct traffic from there to your endpoint, okay? So from your social ads or your page, your competitions, to your website, if that is what your intended purpose is, okay, for that particular piece of content. Guys, like anything, your content needs to have an end game, right? Why are you creating it? What is the end goal? Is it for brand awareness? Is it for conversion? Where does it fall into the funnel? Okay, where do you want your content to take your audience to? You know, is it informing them? Is it enticing them? Is it rewarding them? You know, it could be any of those things. Okay, it is so incredibly important to connect your social media to your website nowadays, okay? I cannot emphasize this enough. I know it sounds quite straightforward, but a lot of people don't get that, okay? It's where the magic happens, connecting those two, okay? And in a lot of cases around the world where, you know, some incredibly well-established and successful companies use a singular redirect, that's kind of, I mean, if you can recreate or create even that loop, you're doing it well. Okay, you get people to your social media, they play around on your social media. It kind of extends your backyard, you know, your playground. Like it extends your website out into a shared public area. Okay, so it's a really, it's a great thing to have those two connecting to each other constantly. Okay, selling directly through social media is incredibly challenging. Okay, I want to underline that now for you. Okay. The platforms lend themselves way more, in my opinion. I know it can be done, and you would learn a lot more about that on the Advanced Social Media Marketing course. But for the purpose of this course, okay, it lends itself far more to social media. It lends itself way more to brand development and generating traffic to your website, okay, pushing that traffic. I'll be explaining that in next week's lesson, but your channels are a massive asset in directing your customers from social media, you know, which is basically where they hang out and they spend their free time, to your website or to your e-commerce site, where the rest of your digital marketing strategy then kicks in to convert them, okay? All right, so to create content, you need a content strategy, not so? Everybody with me on all of this? Betty said, hi, I had a heck of a time logging in. Is there an issue? I don't believe there is on our side. Pumalani says, media content strategy helps you to plan out your posts. It does, to a large extent. Okay, everybody says they're with me. Wonderful stuff. No problem. Okay, cool. So this is just a little layout of what I've got kind of set up for us. Okay, so establishing your audience, your content curation, testing, your content calendar, and statistics. Okay, keeping your eyes on your stats. Okay, so this is just a really simple way of looking at developing your content strategy. I hope it makes sense to you guys. So do stop me at any stage. Okay. So this part, establishing your audience, let's get stuck into it. It's number one. This is the easy part. Okay. This is what you discussed in the content marketing semester, and you actually had a look at it in the foundation course. Okay. When we created our buyer persona. Okay, so you've also got your competitive analysis. You can do a company strategy. You need to find out exactly what your company's stance is to begin with. But if you haven't seen this before, okay, we did have a look at this on the foundation course. So first things first, it is really, really important to discern who you are targeting. Okay, so who your buyers are, what they are trying to accomplish, okay, what goals drive their behavior, how they think and how they buy, why they make buying decisions, okay, and where they buy as well as when they decide to buy. Okay? We're good. Okay, so step 2 from here. Curate and research what it is that you want to say. Okay, doing this is going to help you in so many different ways. Okay, you need to check out the words associated with your products. Okay, to begin with, your competitors are going to give you huge amounts of valuable information on this. Okay, so yeah, what your content does. Okay, how it's going to help you. Okay, not your content, rather the research that you do around your content in developing and curating the content that you're going to be sharing. Okay, you need to know who your audience is. The next thing, you need to know what you're going to be sharing. So this is content curation. And when you're doing this research and you're curating as a term, it helps you to sharpen and improve your content the pre-existing content. Okay. I highly suggest tracking popular and trending topics. Okay, that kind of speaks for itself. That'll help you in curating this content. Okay, do searches and you can find out query frequencies. Okay, so basically that'll give you an indication of what content your audience is looking for. All right, so if you have a look, what kind of, how often do certain questions get asked or comments get made, and is it worth investing your time in writing about that answer? You need to gauge your market interest as well. Okay, so what I mean by that is what topics you should use to make the most out of your global or your location-based trends that are useful to your company, right? Do they want your product? Do people around you, your market, do they want it? It's kind of straightforward. Okay, next, you need to identify the demand for keywords. Okay, so check out the keywords that are associated with your products. Okay, your competitors will be using the same sort of keywords, so they're going to give you a huge amount of information there. Okay, so what I'm going to do in the practical lesson, I'm going to show you a tool. Please remind me, that is going to give you a little bit of information on your competitors, okay, to see a little bit about what they're up to. I know we looked at Owler. We can look at that again, but your keywords are really, really useful in optimizing your video, in image tagging, in social bookmarking, to target your tweets as well. Really, really important to do that, okay? You can also discover relevant points of engagement, okay? This is basically which social channels to use in terms of social media. It's all research, okay? Awesome. All good. Okay, wonderful. So we had a look in the foundation course at how you're undoubtedly going to get way more engagement on a post if it has money behind it, right? As opposed to being organic. Okay, so it just gets put in front of more people. It completely goes without saying. It's to do with the algorithm. So what I mean by testing here is testing the efficiency, the efficacy of your ad campaign that you run on social, okay, and your approach to it. So if you've put money behind a post, you need to have a few things in place if you want to get further than the starting gates, okay? Because you can put money behind a post, but it can still not perform all too well. It's about creating a perfect grouping, okay? So what we're trying to do is find the right image, or couple the right image and the best copy at the perfect time on the right platform. It's no easy task, but it's doable, okay? And get in front of our target market. This is kind of our ideal mixture. It's pretty much impossible to do on social media without it being a paid post. It's a lot of things to test, but with your advertising, okay, here's how we can start to approach this. Oh, it's a beating heart. Isn't that nice? So, okay, like I said there, if you've got money, if you have put money behind a post, it's only natural, guys, that you're going to want to get the most out of that money, right? You're not going to put money behind a post for no good reason. Okay? How on earth can you measure those results unless there's something you can measure against? right? So here are a couple of tips when it comes to A/B testing your advertising. So Marcos is saying A/B tests. That's so good. It seems confusing. You can actually A/B test on social media. Can you believe it? There are a couple of different ways, and I'll talk you through them very, very shortly. But some platforms even offer you the option to do it. Okay, so here are just a couple of ways to A/B test. If you were on the foundation course, you should know what A/B testing is. Okay, so let's have a look. You need to test one thing at a time. Okay, so do not confuse everything by testing more than one thing at a time. Okay, we can do A/B testing on social media through the ads. And guys, there actually is that built-in option when you're selecting specific ad types on Facebook. I'll find out on the other platforms, but on Facebook, it actually gives you the opportunity to split test, which is pretty cool. And we can have a look at that in the next lesson if you like. Only use one method of measure. Oh, sorry, no. Not a method of measurement. We're talking about consistent externals, okay? You need to make sure that all things remain the same. All of the externals stay the same. So you don't want to be testing something today and testing the alternative tomorrow, because they're 2 different days or 2 different times, or it needs to be a perfect test, okay? Next, one metric of measurement. Okay, one method of measurement. So I'm going to show you guys a whole bunch of different ways of measuring your performance on social media. Pardon me. And what I'm saying here is don't look at how many likes you've got, or as if you look at likes and you think, okay, your like is your visits, your impressions, and your conversions. They're all in the one thing. What you need to do is you need to choose something dependent on what your goal is. Okay, if you're trying to convert people, then you want to count your clicks. You want to count the amount of engagements on the post. Okay, how many people saw it? Maybe you want to, but measure one thing at a time, because it gets very, very confusing otherwise. Next, make sure that your 2 tests are identical, okay, except for that one variable. I'm just repeating this because it is important. I know the consistent externals, testing one thing at a time. Make sure that there is one variable that you're testing, no other variables, okay? Make sure that there aren't other variables that could influence that, okay? So what I mean is, say you want to test something on Twitter, or see if it's where your audience is, right? So you put a post up on Twitter, you put a post up on Facebook, but you put the post on Twitter 3 days later. It's not going to be, that's too many variables, all right? So Lilita asked, can you please elaborate on what externals are? So anything outside of your control, anything, your externals are, when you're talking about externals, it's referring to the time, the date, the time of day, the website you're using. It's the external influences. Does that make sense? Okay, so with this testing, Maria says, how can I test one thing at a time and be consistent externally? So there are only a couple of platforms you can do this on. We can have a look, but it's literally, you can change the wording of stuff, of posts, okay? You can test variables by running the same ad at the same time with 2 different targets, 2 different, like one could be for brand awareness and one could be for conversion, and you can see which one works better. Or you can use on Facebook, there's great, you can use 2 different ads for lead generation. Kareem, I can see you. You're very welcome. Okay. So guys, I'll talk you through it. I know it seems very foreign, but I'll talk you through it in the practical lesson. Okay. So when you're testing, make sure that you've only got one variable going on. So excellent. Okay, wonderful. Let us go on. So I just want to go on to the content calendar element of this. Okay, so just to crack this one open a little bit, I'm just sharing a couple of stats with you. Okay, number 1, 200 million people use ad blockers. Okay, soon there are going to be more. That's a bit of a scary concept, right? So your advertising, when you're running ad campaigns, 200 million people on the internet use ad blockers. Okay, 80% of decision makers prefer to get company information in a series of articles versus an advert. Okay? Then 81% of marketers experienced increased traffic with 6 hours a week social media marketing. Okay? Next one. Posts with links have 200% higher engagement rates. Okay, so when I say posts with links, when you post something to Facebook, you post something to Twitter, people click on the link. Okay, it kind of makes sense, because if you didn't have a link there, you've taken an entire action away from people. They'd either have to retweet or reshare or like or comment on your post, but they wouldn't be able to click the link to see what you're talking about. Links almost cause a little bit of curiosity, you know. And then your content marketing costs 62% less than outbound marketing, okay? And it generates 3 times as many leads. So it's a bit of a no-brainer. It's a little bit more effort, but I'll talk to you about content marketing a little bit later, okay? Awesome. So just a couple of tips here, guys, on what to do when putting a content calendar together, okay? You need to post regularly. You need to accept your limitations. When I talk about this, don't overpromise and underdeliver. Don't set yourself up for failure, basically. Don't sit and say, okay, I'm going to post 15 times a week and then only manage 5, and then because you haven't reached that, you're going to stop posting. Just be realistic, okay? Start off small and grow it up, you know, and stretch it out. Make sure the copy that you use, the writing, is clear, okay? Make sure that you only use one call to action per post, okay? Don't try to sell someone. I'll show you in the next lesson a few examples of really, really bad bad social posts with very unclear copy. But just you'll see there's going to be a lot more information than that. But this is just laying the groundwork, okay? Use visual content. It generates way more engagement. Think of when you go through Facebook, okay? Scrolling through Facebook, loads of videos pop up, loads of pictures pop up. You don't really read just the single line of text, do you? We're visual creatures, okay? Make sure that you match your voice and tone of the posts, or you have whoever's writing those posts matches the voice, the tone to the brand that they're writing it for. Okay, Fatima SMM is social media marketing. Okay, so voice and tone is very, very important, guys. And finally, do not post just for the sake of it. So I implore you, please do not do this. It lowers the quality of your posts. Right? Okay, guys, so here as well, I've got a couple of content sharing ratios, okay? So basically these, I know, and people always panic when they see these, but please don't worry. I will do a bonus video on exactly what the breakdown of these is and give you examples. I just couldn't fit it all into this lesson, okay? But these are basically ratios of how many posts you should put up about yourself versus other people. Okay? Terry is asking, how often is regularly? How often to post is regularly? It really depends on you and on your product, and it actually also depends on the platform you're using. Okay, because you would be more likely to post more frequently on Twitter and maybe Instagram, because it's a scrolling feed. It's a very quickly scrolling feed. And not many people will go into, I don't know, maybe it's just me, into your Twitter account to tweet you. They'll just use your handle. But with Facebook, it's a little bit different. You're curating that entire page. Okay, so it just depends on how many posts you can do. Terry says, I usually do 3 decent Facebook posts a week. That's great. That's a great start. I mean, I used to manage a big company's social media content in South Africa, and I did 2 posts a week. You know, it also, I mean, if you're freelancing as well, it also depends on how much they pay you. Okay, so back to this, okay, your content sharing ratios. This is just a breakdown. It's going to be in more detail, Byron. I'm not telling you which company. In more detail in the next lesson, or in that bonus video rather, okay? But here we go. These are just to show you different theories that people have of how you should share online, okay? And what content your posts should be with, or should refer to. Okay? So, for the 5-3-2 rule. This is 5 pieces or posts from other people, so sharing, retweeting, share like regramming, that kind of thing. 5 of theirs, okay? 3 pieces of content that you have created, and 2 personal status updates. So this one, the 5-3-2 rule works very well for influencers, okay? Especially and small companies. Anyone really, because the personal status updates, when it's talking about that, it means from saying where you're having a meeting to what the office dog is doing. You know, it can be about anything. It can be two little posts about you. The next one is the 5-5-5 plus. Okay, that is 5 updates about you and your content. So if you've written articles, the company, you want to talk about personal stuff behind the scenes, that works. 5 about other people, so writing about what's going on in your industry, or sharing something that someone else has posted, and then 5 responses to other people's posts. Okay, so that would work ideally on Twitter, where you'd have that engagement element in it as well. Okay, and then the plus it refers to like miscellaneous posts that add value or culture. So that would be like your hashtag follow Friday, or like Women Crush Wednesday, that kind of thing. Okay. The number 2 is 2 personal status updates of yours, okay? Guys, you don't have to write this down. This is going to be in your summary notes, okay? Don't worry too much about it. Alrighty, so then there's the golden ratio, and we talk about that in the next lesson, okay? And then there's 4-1-1, so that is 4 posts. This one's really easy. This 4 posts from other people, sharing those, and 1 retweet for every 1 self-promoting update. So it's okay. That literally means you share. This can be Robert saying 5 a day. No, it doesn't necessarily have to be 5 a day. If you're a really active brand, then you can do that. But I would suggest doing 5 a week, or even over 2 weeks. It really depends on you, okay, on what works for you. You can really just work it out yourself. In accordance with what works for you. Keep it realistic. All right, so the 4-1-1 is for Twitter as well. So that's 4 posts from other people, so sharing other people's content. 1 retweet for every 1 self-promoting update. Okay, and then finally we've got our rule of thirds. Okay, the rule of thirds is a third about you and your company. A third of your content must be about others and surfacing ideas, so like your trends and your new and upcoming, like newsjacking, that kind of vibe. And then a third on personal interactions, building your brand. So that's your engagement as well. That could be tweeting at someone, or engaging with someone in the comments on your social channel. Okay, so that is your sharing ratio, or ratios. So don't worry, that'll be broken down in your summary notes. Pumulani says, "Oh, great! I was writing everything down." You guys must know by now. Your summary notes are sorted. Okay, guys. So basically, here, number 5, your eyes on the stats. Okay, you gotta align your social media strategy to your business outcomes. Okay. You know, what is it that you're trying to achieve with your social media page? What is your goal? How does it fall into your strategy? Okay, that is what is going to determine what you're measuring. Okay, and guys, we're going to have a look at that in a bit in the next lesson. But most importantly here, we're going to have a look next at how you're measuring things, what you're measuring them by. Okay, so with your goal, what you're measuring, are you measuring for traffic, for interaction, for following or revenue. Okay, you've got to make a decision on what you're trying to measure, what you're trying to achieve, and then you use the appropriate measures for that. Okay, so let me break this down for you. Okay, to be honest with you, there are loads and loads of stats available out there, and it can be really, really hard to know what to measure. As far as your analytics are concerned. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to really make a decision to measure one thing at a time. Okay, one report for each stat. You know, what are we trying to achieve? You know, what category does it fit into? So let's take a look here. Okay, so we've got our exposure, we've got influence, we've got engagement, our conversion, or cash monies. Okay, so in terms of exposure, if exposure is what you are trying to achieve. Okay, a lot of you are asking about the content ratios. Guys, they're in your notes, or you can watch the recording of this, okay? Because we've got a lot more to talk about, and we've only got a couple of minutes to talk about it. Or ask in the Q&A. I'll be around, okay? So, for exposure, you want to, it's like reach, okay? You want to find out, you want to grow your brand, all right? So, you want to measure by completion, okay? So that's page loading, completion, and autoplay of videos. So if you're using YouTube, how many times, or even on your ads, how many times has the video started playing itself, okay? Page visits, alrighty? That's a big one. Posts, okay? How many posts? How many shares, okay? So, yeah, shares, okay, they've shared your content, okay. How much time is spent, you know, how much time is spent watching videos on those autoplays, how much time is spent on your website when they're redirected. Does that make sense? We're all good? Okay, how many tweets, okay. And viewable impressions, alrighty. The second method of measurement of your level of influence. Okay, this is for your level of influence in the market. Okay, so you want to measure your share of voice. So that's your position in the market. Okay, it's basically in online advertising, your share of voice is an ad revenue model. Okay, and it focuses on the weight or the percentage that you have among other advertisers, okay? So what is the sentiment? What is the sentiment about your brand? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it neutral? You want to have a look at your cred score. So your cred score, your clout score, I mean, these two, it's how much weight or clout does your brand hold? Okay? We all good? There we go. Measuring your sentiment can only be done, as far as I'm concerned. You can do a bit of an overview look, but and kind of get a sense of what the measurement is. But there are tools out there that you can use, like Adobe Social, which is for much bigger companies. But that will give you the general sentiment of what the posts are like on your social channel or channels, okay? So if you're measuring engagement, okay, that is how many clicks you have on posts, how many retweets you have, how many shares you have of your posts, how many replies you've got, how many direct messages, and how many posts you have on your walls, and how many comments there are on posts that you've put up, okay? Pretty simple. Then for your action and your conversion, you want to see, I mean, this is pretty simple. With social media, you want to know how many people have downloaded your content. You can measure purchases. I would assume that it would be, I haven't got a lot of experience with buying like the e-commerce plugins on social media, but for me, these would be your conversions, okay? You would be getting leads far more than you'd be getting sales. So your content downloads, they've downloaded something that you've put up for them. Your webinar attendees, how many people are on the webinar right now? Lead generation forms, how many people have filled out forms for you? And your pitches and proposals, okay? Next one, money, okay? So basically that's just measured by online sales, phone sales, and in-person sales. And only one of those we kind of deal with on this course, okay? But it's kind of directed through social media. Alrighty. So, any question? I've got some questions there. Terry says, can you measure that on Facebook, how long someone stays on a video? On your video advertising, absolutely. You should be able to do that. I'll look into that and I'll get back to you, but you should absolutely be able to do that. Lee says she doesn't see the ration explanations in the summary notes for this week. Let me just check because I know I wrote them down. They might be in another week's summary notes, but I'll get that to you. Priyanka says, what is Cred and Clout? So Cred and Clout, let me bring up Clout for you quickly. Clout is how you measure influence. Okay, it's one of the first systems that was developed online to measure how popular you are and how much influence you've got over other people. Okay, so cool. Thank you for that. Excellent. So, and you can also do a lot of research on this page, on them. Okay, so oh, that's my impact. That's quite sad. No impact. Nice impact. No impact. So say fashion blogger. Right, so, okay, so let's go back to that last page. Oh, of course, Richard. Makes sense to look for Gary Vee, doesn't it? Wow, it's really not playing ball. Okay, well, have a play with it, guys. I assume, yeah, sorry. That's kind of redirecting. So the URL is clout.com, Klout.com. Okay, cool. So let's move on because we have a lot to fit in. Guys, your analytics, they are very, very, very important to us. Okay, they prove the value of social media to your organization's overall goals. Okay. You need to, there still are a couple of companies, a few companies that don't see the value in social media. Social media marketing is seen as an add-on. It's like a plug-on, like a stick it on top, like a little bit of a hat detail kind of thing. So a lot of people who work in that industry are going to need to be able to prove the value of their efforts. Okay. So analytics help us do this, okay? They also allow us to clearly see where efforts and resources are being used nicely and efficiently, okay? They also let us know where resources are being wasted, okay? Or not used as efficiently as possible, where things are working, where they're not. It allows us to recognize the gaps in our strategy, in key messages and content, or what our key messages and content are, okay? And it shows us where our social media budget, okay, is being used effectively and where it can be pulled back. Alrighty, so guys, that is kind of our analytics. I'm going to quickly take you over social monitoring. Sorry, I'm a little bit off today. I don't know what is going on. I haven't had coffee in 4 days. That's probably it. Or cake. So guys, social monitoring is the process of monitoring digital conversations to understand what customers are saying about a brand and industry online. Okay? So why do we need to monitor? Right? Guys, basically, it gives us customer feedback. We find out what our customers are saying, okay, about us and about our industry and about our competitors. It allows us to identify trends, okay, in our industries. It allows us to find influencers and grab talent as well. You can find people. How many of you have got messages from people on LinkedIn asking to, recruiters and that sort of thing? I know I've got a few of those. It helps us to find leads. Okay, it helps us to monitor our own efforts and see how we're doing and whether we're going wrong. Okay, and it helps us to spy on our competition. Okay, so your customers actually might be discussing your brand, but not directly mentioning you or hashtagging you or anything like that. Okay, so, or using your handle. Fewer than 3% of customers directly mention brands on Twitter. And that's a stat that comes from Conversocial, okay? But guys, it's really, really important to know that there's a lot being said about you that isn't, that you're not able to, you wouldn't be able to read just by searching your own name, okay? So there are a good few tools for us to use. But what I'm going to do, guys, because I was just trying to squeeze as much info into this lesson as possible, so I only managed to get you guys the outlines of monitoring and listening. But I'll expand on it with a couple of tools in the next lesson. Okay, but we'll talk a little bit about Hootsuite and about BuzzSumo and about all of that good stuff. Okay, I just wanted to introduce you to the concept because it is quite important and can be incredibly helpful. And it's part of our analytics, really. Okay, so just quickly, there is a difference between monitoring and listening here. Okay, so monitoring refers to watching the progress of our own efforts, okay, which would be our analytics, and listening is paying attention to the bigger picture. It's listening to the external. Alrighty. So monitoring, there's a little bit of crossover because monitoring would consist of, looking at how much engagement happens with our audience on one of our posts in our house, okay? Kind of looking into the house, and listening is looking at the window. Alrighty. Guys, so just to review the management side of things, okay, there is share, okay, listen, analyze, and revise. That's pretty much what it consists of, the whole management and monitoring vibe. All right? Okay, and then there's just a last little slide I want to show you. I don't know why it's not working for me today. Okay, cool. So our summary. Okay, so there are a lot of different ways for us to be able to kick off a content strategy. Okay? You can start with your analytics. You can start with developing your content based on, what your business goals are and later checking them up against what your customer wants, right? The options are they're endless. You can start anywhere. But this is why it needs to be a cyclical strategy, okay? I don't know if you noticed, I used a lot of circles in that presentation or in those slides. It is a cycle, a cyclical process. I mean, personally, myself, I think that social media starts with your customer, okay, your buyer persona, or at least your perception of who your buyer is. I would start there because it allows you to properly place your customer at the center of everything from the start. So what we're going to do here is basically, guys, break it down, last little points, make a plan, start with that, listen to your audience, implement your strategy, analyze the outcome, revise what's necessary, and repeat. Okay, Cecilia asked, how much time should we be spending monitoring? It really depends. I don't think that you should be you shouldn't be sitting on your analytics the whole time, like every 5 minutes looking at it, but enough for you to be able to revise your plan if you need to, because you can. This is the thing, guys, with your content, with your strategies, with social media, it's an ongoing process. So if you make a mistake, okay, so sometimes it would be really bad for your reputation if you make a really big mistake, but for the most part, your mistakes are learning curves, okay, and you can always build back from that.